Before proceeding to assess Pat's assertion that to be godless is to be free, I must clarify the stance adopted by PDAW on the idea of freedom. The Western world's vision of freedom has become synonymous with relativism and decadence. This self-gratification has led to infringement of the God-given rights to dignity, peace, security, and the exercising of free will which does not encroach on these shared human rights. Godless freedom, decadence, does not share these altruistic values. PDAW maintains that immutable human rights can be guaranteed only in a society governed according to the Torah, biblical law. The Torah would provide a legal and social structure based on universal justice, mercy, compassion, and equality. All other forms of legal code are defective, as seen in the decline of Western civilizations, based on moral relativism and humanism. Humanity is corrupted. Its past and its present, and man's inhumanity towards man, each demonstrate this unfortunate truth about the very nature of what it means to be human. Humanity cannot so much as behave with compassion for itself, so what kind of fool does it take to place faith in a legal system founded on its contradictory ethos and amorphous sense of decency and responsibility? The Torah alone can provide real freedom and quality of life for all the occupants of a nation, not democracy, which is a relic from failed Greek city-states. The Torah is an impartial meting out of justice. It is a complex and comprehensive legal code designed by a perfect judge, one entirely removed from the human condition. The alternative is to continue tolerating big government employing ad hoc legislation and the mechanisms of the state to keep its citizens as dogs on long leashes. Democracy is control via cohesion. It employs state media and education to portray the rulings and practices of a select few men and women who abuse their trusting constituents, such as in the recent MP expenses scandal, as being the norm rather than the exception. In a society with no moral values other than self-gratification, today's vices are tomorrow's virtues, and media-endorsed lifestyle choices, enabling the otherwise reprobate members of the political classes to claim ownership of citizens with little or no resistance. These subdued masses are then goaded into registering their children's births, sending them to attend state schools, accepting state vaccinations, being allotted a national insurance number, participating in a national census, carrying ID, and being registered as deceased upon death. From the cot to the grave, from birth certificate to death certificate, you are viewed as the property of a state ran by other human beings no better than their subjects. This is supposed to be freedom. In 2 Corinthians, chapter 6, the Bible directs the faithful to be not unequally yoked with unbelievers, to come out from among them, to be separate, and to have no place among infidels. This has led to me being prosecuted on a number of occasions for resisting state interference in my life. But I'm not the only person to have been persecuted for having the courage of my convictions. Not long ago, Stephen Green, of ChristianVoice.com, was arrested and charged with using threatening, abusive or insulting words or behavior for peacefully handing out leaflets at a rally for homosexuals in Cardiff, Wales. The threatening, abusive or insulting words printed on the leaflets were quotes from the 1611 King James Bible. The problem was that they were those bits of the Bible which forbid homosexuality. To quote Ismail Phillips' article in front of me, this bizarre state of affairs has arisen thanks to our human rights culture which automatically champions minorities against the majority. As a result, no one can say anything disobliging about a minority without being accused of prejudice or discrimination. The problem for Christianity is that it holds that homosexuality is wrong. This, however, it is no longer allowed to say because it treats a minority practice as sinful. So it can no longer uphold a central tenet of its own faith without being accused of prejudice. Clearly, only those who do not obey the godless social Darwinists steering the policies of prototype one-world governments like the EU and UN are readily subjected to discrimination and a curtailing of freedoms in Britain, not Patton's ilk. These champions of globalization decide the agendas and laws for their member states including Britain, and have ensured that it is impossible to successfully prosecute for the crime of blasphemy in 21st century Britain, not even when the plaint is submitted, and the case funded by private citizens. Pat is shadowboxing. Where laws fail, brainwashing fills in the gaps. In 2008, the Media Research Center reported a pro-atheism bias in major press outlets in the United States, and there have been similar studies carried out in the UK, home to the notoriously liberal-biased BBC state-funded media outlet, with comparable findings. And to so much as teach intelligent design alongside the dogma of Darwinism in schools, can see you lose your job. This is no less true of America, allegedly the land of the free, a godless paradise where church and state are separated and everyone gets a fair swing of the bat. Maybe the idealists forgot to inform the governors of Dover High School. If the contents and theology of the Holy Bible are to be taught in schools, the state curriculum dictates that it be taught in accordance with a humanistic and pacifist interpretation, factoring in such considerations as multicultural and multi-faith pupils, their sexualities and their sensibilities. The Church must play its role as an instrument of the state, reflecting its presiding zeitgeist at all times, or cease to exist in the public sphere in any capacity. When controlling people's thoughts and actions fails to achieve results, the godless will not hesitate to resort to lies. One of my favorite examples is Richard Dawkins losing a debate to Shmuley Boteach, then pretending the debate never took place. And known to Dawkins, the debate, on which the audience were invited to vote for a winner at its conclusion, voting in favor of Boteach, had been videotaped. Boteach posted the video of the imaginary victory on his own website. No wonder prominent philosopher Michael Roos stated that Dawkins makes him embarrassed to be an atheist. Not even commerce is spared from those discriminating against theists who seek the freedom to express their religious beliefs. In 2004, the fascist thought police of our godless democracy caught up with Tom Forrest. Mr. Forrest had dared to refuse providing a room with a double bed in his guest house and home to a pair of homosexuals. Visit Scotland subsequently removed Mr. Forrest's Highland guest house from its list of recommended bed and breakfasts. Mr. Forrest protested that, quote, "I have no problem with what they do in their homes, but I will not condone it in my house, the key point being, my house." But neither his rejection of bigotry, his ownership and occupancy of the property, more than 1,500 messages of support, nor the agreement of over 48% of the Scottish population that homosexuality is depraved were sufficient to convince the state-sponsored Visit Scotland that Mr. Forrest was entitled to freedom of expression, and that he was free to uphold his own values and his business ethics. The politically correct squad at Visit Scotland do not concur with the opinion of Mr. Forrest and more than 2,400,000 fellow Scots, but somebody who does is the distinguished Myron Barron, MD, professor at Columbia University. Writing in British Medical Journal, she observes that, quote, "From an evolutionary perspective, genetically determined homosexuality would have become extinct long ago because of reduced reproduction." Scientists of all religious persuasions agree with Barron. It's not a question of dogma and theology, just one of nature versus nurture and personal choice. Homosexuality is a morbid lifestyle choice, no different to choosing whether or not to smoke cigarettes and binge drink on alcohol. Yet while the homosexuals who hope to acquire a room at Mr. Forrest's guest house enjoy the privilege of living in a society engineered to accommodate their lifestyle choice and the nurturing, or grooming, of future homosexuals, all Mr. Forrest asks is that his beliefs and associated lifestyle be respected in his own home and business. but even that is too bitter a pill of concession for an organization funded by a liberal democracy to swallow. In a liberal democracy, there is the freedom to tolerate, among other things, blasphemy, and state primary schools sexualizing children as young as 5 years old, or resist and face prosecution. Simple.